Amazing. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I am Taylor Harrington. I'm your head of community here inside of Dreamers and Doers, and so grateful you were all taking a little sliver of your Wednesday to come hang out with us. And I have a great feeling that this is going to be an amazing and empowering session. So we're joined by the phenomenal Lidia Bonilla, and she is a Cuban Dominican entrepreneur, speaker, and teacher whose work on the nervous system regulation and emotional healing has been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, Fast Company, and Essence. And Lidia brings a beautiful blend of personal storytelling and science backed insight into everything that she teaches. So today's session is all about understanding why getting your needs met can feel so difficult and what it actually takes to build that emotional safety net required to express those needs clearly and confidently. So she will be guiding us through a powerful self-assessment to help you reflect on your own relationships, personal, professional, and everything in between, so that you can move toward deeper connection, less stress, and more clarity, which I feel like is super relevant to how we just started this session. So super honored to have Lidia here, representing and sharing with the Dreamers and Doers community. So let's go ahead and get started. Thanks, Lidia, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for this session. And thank you for everyone who is taking the time out of their day to address their needs. So I am just going to share my screen.
Amazing. And we have Brittany in the room now. So Brittany, welcome. So good to have you here. And so excited for this session. I also want to preface as we get these slides up, if anyone has questions at all throughout the session, please feel free to message me. Just put it into the chat. And I can just surface those on up to Lidia, and whether she gets to them during the middle of the session or at the end, I will be able to keep tabs on them. So share them as they come up.
Okay, wonderful. So how this is going to go is that first we're going to do some deep breathing, just going to ask, why are you here? And as well as go through what needs are. I really like to define even words that we just use every day that we may not know actually mean something else because of the community. It's created another meaning around it. We'll go through why needs are really difficult for a lot of us to talk about, to get them addressed, to actually get them met. And then after this session, if you so choose, I'll send you over in like a deeper audit of how to basically do an assessment of your needs in different areas of your life, because your financial needs are different from your relationship needs, and needs around, spirituality, growth are different. So I'm going to send you over a breakdown that'll go through all of that. So I believe in the communal power of healing. So I want us to all start, with the same breath. And if you're feeling sort of anxious, like I am, I'm going to do a 3-part breath, which basically is going to be an inhale of 4 and then exhaling for 8. I'm going to do that 3 rounds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Wonderful. So if anyone would just like to share really quickly, why are you here?
I'm happy to share. So I'm working on boundaries with my coach right now. And when I saw the session, I felt like needs and boundaries are very, very aligned. So I was very interested.
Thank you. Just one more person.
I'll go. So I think, I always like to learn from people. And I think that I'm super corporate and I've always shown up super corporate. And I don't know how to um, present on topics like this in like a way that feels natural. And so the best way to learn is through, I think, learning from people who do this all the time. And I'm launching a brand around self-love. Um, and I just wanted to hear how you talk about things and how it resonates with people and, just really learn how to talk about this in a way that feels more mainstream. Because right now I'm like in two worlds. I'm super corporate and I'm super spiritual. And I'm like, how do I even start to combine those things? And so I think it's beautiful and so brave that you have done that because it takes an incredible amount of vulnerability, at least to me,
Hmm.
to like show up and be like, let's talk about these things that most people would say are not even important. Like,
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for coming with that vulnerability of learning, of being, of having like kind of that open spirit of I don't know everything that there is. Most of the time, a lot of times, the simplest things in life are the hardest.
mhm.
Um, and so yeah, thank you for being here in that moment. I don't know how mainstream I am. I curse. I talk about different things. I talk about rap, like, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what you get.
No, I love it. And I think that it's just having, I think more so I want to learn from your courage and I want to learn from your like light because to me, I can talk about anything except
Yeah.
that actually require me to be vulnerable because I am like, oh my gosh, people are gonna judge me, they're gonna say all these things. And so to me, I'm just like, how does one, I don't know if you know this term, but like to me it feels very feminine what you're doing and like in a way,
Oh,
in a really
hmm.
beautiful way. And I'm
Yeah.
leading with my masculine, not my feminine. And I'm like, I want to see more examples of people leading with their feminine leadership versus like their masculine leadership. And I just,
Okay.
yeah. So
All right, good. 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 I'm glad that you have that intention, and I hope at least part of that, if not all of what you're seeking, gets addressed today.
absolutely.
All right, so we did that. So my personal story. So I have dealt with burnout a number of times in life, which is how I realized that my needs were not being met after I depleted myself and had nothing else to give, including to myself. I experienced that when I had a product brand. I had a sex positive um, storage product that I sold out of during the pandemic, and I was happy to do so because I was done selling products. Learned a lot. It was great, and I was done selling products. So I experienced burnout. Then I also experienced burnout when, as a caretaker, I took care of my father who had cancer and then succumbed to cancer. And that was a huge life lesson in how to acknowledge that I'm not getting what I need and what it looks like when you don't get what what it looks like when you don't get what you need. So hopefully you don't get to those stages of burnout that unfortunately, more fortunately, and this is my life's path, so it is what it is. But it definitely led to bouts of depression. Also dealt with health challenges around having fibroids and a whole slew of things. But it also led me to this journey. So here we are. So, because you are here to get what you need, I would love for you to be in this conversation through the frame of a current unmet need. So, think about sort of, in the back of your mind as you're hearing this, or as other people may have asked questions like, why is this need important? How long has it been unmet? What's your history around this need? Is it something that you've tried before to obtain and was not able to do? Also, your family's history with the need. Are you the first person in your family to even talk about needs, boundaries? I have a Latin background, and no one cares. No one gives a shit about my boundaries. No one really cares until I get pissed. So there's, the cultural background of like boundaries. This is American. What are you talking about? And also listen to have sort of an observer's mind around your need. Like, what are your thoughts automatically? It's never going to happen. I've tried before, or this is too much. And also what's happening in your body. When you think of it, does your breath increase? Do you feel lethargic energy? Do you feel way too much energy? Do you feel something in your gut? Like there's a whole slew of signals that your body communicates that you're on the right path. So yes. All right. So what are needs? Needs are vital to your well-being. And the definition of a need is a need is physiological or a psychological requirement for the well-being of an organism. We are organisms. All organisms have some sort of need, one way or the other. The other characteristic of a need is that, so they're different, and we'll go through this, the different types of needs, but because you don't get credit from one need to the other. A lot of people who experience this as far as having accomplished a lot, in their career, realizes that that does not translate to having success in relationships or even in your health. So, or having an abundance of great relationships and doesn't necessarily translate to being able to satisfy other needs. The other characteristic of a need is that they're interpersonal in nature. There is no way to get your needs met without other people, and that sucks. That absolutely sucks, because we will really try. If you're an overachiever, you're confident, competent, you have probably already tried to see how you can do this on your own. Technology would also have us believe that you just need to build a better app to get that need met. Impossible. Needs are interpersonal in nature. You must get them met through another organism. And they're also highly subjective. So what I may need may be just like, a bonus for someone else, or be completely irrelevant to another person. And that's important when other people are communicating their needs to you, of like, oh, I don't care about that, so that shouldn't really matter. They need it. So it's subjective and highly, susceptible to interpretation. So this is, you may have seen this before, it's a hierarchy of needs. Now, though it's displayed as a hierarchy, it doesn't mean that you need to, for example, meet needs 1 through 4 in order to get to 5. So it's really just for display purposes to help understand the importance of certain needs, but also it doesn't have to be linear. So you have your basic needs, which are like, okay, your physical needs, your health, getting sleep, eating properly, your sex is also a physiological need, feeling safe, feeling secure with others, feeling secure with yourself. You know, if you a person that have experienced some sort of trauma around violence, you know, walking down the street, you know, some people don't feel safe in that regard, and you'll never know. They don't say anything. And so also, if these are things that it's always been part of your makeup, you kind of don't even notice. It's just like, oh, that's just the way that is. Yeah, that's what I do. As if, you know, sometimes we've normalized certain needs going unmet. So then there's love, having a sense of belonging with community, having self-esteem, self-love, and then, you know, your connection to whatever you believe is higher to you. So your life purpose, your relationship with God, or whatever other higher power, if you acknowledge one. But what I also would say about the hierarchy of needs is that I believe to really have sustained happiness, not just blips of like joy and then going back into despair or what have you, is that you want to have a balance really of all of these. Balance, but not perfection. It's a whole other thing. All right, so what does it mean what does it look like when these needs don't get met? So a lot of times addiction is the source, could be traced to unmet needs, whether it's addictions around substances. Work can be a way that people escape not getting their needs met somewhere else. Rage, silent rage. So if you have an experience of having needs that that you don't acknowledge, that sort of cycle can turn into rage, that you may start to either explode or worse, even implode into yourself. Could create apathy, like, I don't care. It's like by this time you're just like, I don't care if this works or doesn't work. Depression, anxiety is another indication of some sort of cluster of unmet needs. Procrastination is another. And interesting one is a loss of self. So that you start to become a person that you are one person with the persons or people, where you're not getting your needs met, and then you're another person with yourself, because you've kind of acknowledged that there's a gap. So you kind of create these two selves to be able to reconcile that there's a problem. But the huge factor in why needs go unmet is your relationship to your needs when you were a child, in terms of your parents or your primary caretakers. So in families where parents or caretakers have experienced addiction, unhealed traumas, their own unmet needs from their own childhoods, the caretaker will, not on purpose, a lot of times will prioritize their own needs over the needs of the child. And sometimes what that creates is like a role reversal. You start to adapt. You start to, like, for example, in homes where there was addiction, children start to become like mini adults. You know, like I've heard of people that grew up with parents who were either drug addicts or alcoholics, doing things like, oh, I wake up in the morning and make sure that my dad was breathing. And you just, in a family where that's normal, you normalize that. And that starts to create the path of, it's important for me to make sure that my parents' needs are met. So in the off chance that I may get what I need. And as a result, the lines get a bit blurred. So you may start to not know where your needs are and the needs are of the people around you. And though, so they'll start, so it's like, oh, what they need is what I need, because that's how I'll be able to get my need, and it becomes sort of this cycle. And it particularly creates also if you have the experience of living in an environment where it was unsafe to say what you needed, or to identify your need, if that was seen as like being disrespectful or something like that, then you'll kind of develop sort of this hostile relationship with your own needs. Okay, so what's needed to address your needs is safety. And my favorite definition of safety, if you look up the word safety, it has say a lot of different things, but it's from Dr. Porges, who's the leading researcher around polyvagal theory, which is the theory or the practice of nervous system regulation. And it's safety is the absence of a threat in the presence of connection. That in order to have the experience of safety, you need those two things. It's literally a relationship between those two things. What's important is to be able to distinguish that you can be safe, personally safe, in a very unsafe environment. And I think sometimes the way safety or emotional safety is talked about now in the vernacular is like someone else has to do something for me to feel safe. It'd be great if that were to happen, and most of the times it's not going to, because safety may not be a priority in a lot of environments. So, but you can create safety for yourself. And the reason why it's, because of the different things that I've talked about, is that why it's difficult to talk about needs or even identify with them is it just simply feels unsafe. Now, what's unsafe is basically the opposite of this. And I think a lot of people, there'll be different interpretations of what feels unsafe for another person. So this is, when I talk about safety, this is really, really what I mean. All right, so a few other reasons why safety can feel unsafe, or you start to get in a loop of like, oh, I can't do this because it feels unsafe, and then this and that. One is delaying it, dealing with it until like you're depleted. And at that point, whether it's physical depletion, mental depletion, and you say, so I just need this, that may now be interpreted as a threat to another person or to an organization. If you're talking about unmet needs to an organization, or, pay me more money or I'm out of here. Now people have to deal with what you're saying, and then also the experience of being threatened. And because that may cause issues, then you're like, oh my God, this is unsafe to do this. I'll figure out how to get my needs met by myself. The other is like the physical overwhelm of like needs. If it's a need that you've gone without for a long time, or it's a relationship that's kind of lopsided, just the idea of dealing with it, you may go into a trauma response, which is either going into freeze or getting anxious or what have you. And it may be a very familiar experience too. Also shamed. If you've been shamed in the past for having a need, someone has said, you don't need that, that's not important, or that's too expensive, what are you talking about? We're not doing that. Then you may go, I'll never do this again. And my favorite one is that people just may not give a shit. They may not give a shit about the foundation they may not give a shit about your well-being. And so it does not matter how well you articulate what you need, how you may express it as an opportunity for someone else. If they don't care about your well-being, it does not matter. And the negative feedback is, you'll go, oh, this is all way too much. I'm just going to see how I can deal with, how I could make do without this. This is way too much. And then it goes on and on and on until you can't anymore, until you hit a wall. Now, I've gone through quite a bit of this. Are there any questions in the chat or anything? Taylor, I can't tell.
Great question. Yeah, all good. I'll call out a couple things that were shared.
Okay.
Just and if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in. And like I said, if anyone wants to ask a question, just have me pause the recording. Feel free to let me know in the chat, like, hey, I want to ask a question, and then I can go ahead and pause it so we don't even have to identify who is asking me to do that. Mary was saying back when you were asking like why people are here, just to kind of call that back in, she was saying that she's writing a book on improvish techniques as a way to improve the nervous system with resilience. So she is a student of this work and wants to improve how she shows up in her own life too. So just cool context there. Melinda said that this workshop is coming at the perfect time because she's doing a mid-year reset and prioritizing projects in business. And Mary said she's also in a similar phase right now. And then Catalina said that she's loving this so much and it's breaking it down really well. And that is so true about people not caring. So that's the catch up on the chat.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. All right, sweet. So how do we actually articulate needs? So first I'd start with my own relationship to the need. So owning the need as important is first to go, okay, why is this important to me? Why does it matter? What's been the cost of this need going unmet? And this is really an important step if you deal with people pleasing. So if you've had an experience of going, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, I'll do it, and having done it for a period of time, now you have to deal with the questions about like, oh, why didn't she say anything, before? Or, wow, this is sudden, or what have you. That may come up, and if you've been doing things or saying things that you don't want to do, or ignoring something that's important to you, you have to take ownership of that, yeah, I didn't or did because I felt uncomfortable. And when you do things from a space from vulnerability, people will give you a lot of grace. Generally, if they're decent people, they'll give you grace around that. And so that leads to the next step, which is that's a step towards creating safety within the body. So that way that the need itself does not feels less and less of a threat to your nervous system, because threats are not necessarily, well, at least in the terms of the nervous system, it's just something different. It's a change. It could be great. It could be a good change. It could be a bad change. That's really important too, to distinguish, because even good things, I do a training or a workshop around nervous system regulation, and there's for people who are very have a lot of energy and are always doing things, the state of equilibrium can feel unsafe for people. So you go to a client and they're like, yes, I want to work with you. That may feel unsafe because it's just different. So if you are reciting it to yourself, or you may actually even want to role play with a trusted friend or a professional of some sort, just to be able to see like, oh, wow, I got told no and I didn't pass out. Great. Or you get to notice like, how does, what happens in different aspects in addressing the need. So just getting used to it, getting it used, saying it in your mouth, getting used to it in your mouth, and as well as in your body will create safety. The other is like delivery. So making the conversation, if it's going to be a conversation, be as low stakes as possible. You know, just, you know, you share why it's important, you know, why, you know, what you need, why it's important, and what execution looks like. This is important, particularly, I think, with men. They will, like, if they care about you, whatever it is, they want to make sure that you're happy, but they may not know, they may not be clear on how it actually looks like. So they will do a version of that and they go, well, why are you upset? It's like, that's not what I wanted. So it's like being very clear of like, what does success look like in this situation? And the other is we listen and we don't negotiate. Needs are not negotiable. Wants are negotiable. Needs are not negotiable. So if this is something you need for your emotional and your mental well-being, your physical, even your physical well-being, you have to make a decision, you know, at some point about how you want to proceed. Some of the best sales advice I had received was you give your offer and you shut the fuck up. If you have to count in your head or do whatever, do that. And I did this in a real estate negotiation. And it really did work. The person started to negotiate with themselves. And I was like, and once he got to the low number, I said, yeah, that's the number. That's good. That's good. But I really did have to just like shut up. So also, when you present a need, it's very telling about, it's very telling their response. If a person is like, sure, no problem, not a problem. This is, I get it, this is important to you, cool. But if you feel like you have to convince them, or you have to convince why this matters to you, or they start talking about their own needs instead of their own, how they're going to be negatively impacted by this need that you have. That's telling. That is something to work with about where you want the relationship to go. And it's also telling the response, like what you want to then do. Like, is your first instinct to go, let me downplay the need. It's not big a deal, I'll be fine. Or is it, you know, do you feel like, oh no, I have to run out of here, check out, like I quit, I'm done, or whatever it is. That's also interesting to know your own reaction. All right, so you may do all this, you may get here and you're like, wow, I did not get what I need. I put Beyonce here because in that, I don't know if anyone has seen this film, but there's a part in there where she's like, I can't believe I'm asking for this, you know? And it's like, this is Beyonce, like one of the most powerful people, you know, in entertainment. And she's like, I don't understand why this lighting, I've asked for this, is still not what I want. I imagine she's a pain in the ass to work with. I imagine she's a perfectionist, you know, and all that. But, you know, I'm like, wow, she still has issues. Like I remember there was a section in the movie where like a guy was sort of started to like explain to her about the lighting. She's like, no, I know how it works. That this is what I want. But anyway, so you've done all that, wonderful, feel what you feel. It's super important to not dismiss or minimize whatever you feel. You could feel disappointed, you could feel rage, however you feel is valid. Don't start to, you know, notice if you start to want to then discount the need and go, well, if they said no, then it's probably not a good idea. But honoring the space that you're in is a great step to actually creating success and getting other needs met, or having, you know, successful conversations. Celebrate yourself, because, you know, asking for what you need is a big deal. First of all, just acknowledging that there is a gap is a huge deal. doing something about it is a big deal too. And it'll help you processing whatever that is that's there for you will allow you to then be able to identify and advocate for your needs quicker with less like drama, emotional drama about it. Should I not? Should I do it? Is it too much? All of that. And then maybe even like getting your needs met become pleasurable, because especially in romantic relationships, when a man, if we're talking about men and female relationships, if a man cares, he enjoys fulfilling your needs. So it may even like start to become enjoyable and pleasurable. All right, and so now if you've determined that this is a non-negotiable for you, what does that really mean? What's next? Is a boundary missing? Does that mean, or does it mean that the relationship now has to restructure? So in other words, are you now going from building a relationship to now managing it? Which means building is you're going upwards, and managing just means we're just going to keep it to the status quo. Because I see that I'm not going to be able to get what I need for us to go forward. Or does the relationship, partnership, whatever that is, does it need to end? So, most important thing to know about needs is that you've already earned the right to ask to get what you need. So there's nothing really to do other than to do the work of dealing with the need with yourself. But there's nothing that you have to earn. You did the work already by being alive. Everyone deserves to have their needs met. So, are there any questions or anything that came up
You have
for?
a question from Mary.
Sure.
So Mary asked, could you perhaps speak to the scarcity versus abundance mindset when it comes to this? I find that when I'm in a scarcity mindset, then boundaries can be particularly more challenging. And Teresa agreed with that. And Mary gave a little bit more of a concrete example and said, recently I walked away from a client situation because they started paying me 40% less for even more expertise work. And when I brought it up and I asked for my needs to be met, they wouldn't. So I walked away, and it felt so freaking good. But it also can be hard to walk away from something because something is still more than nothing.
Yeah, that is first of all, congratulations for doing that and making a decision. Just even making a decision is a big deal, because people sometimes in the scarcity, in an environment of scarcity, will just accept. I don't necessarily think about it in terms of scarcity or abundance, because what you need is what you need. So it's kind of hard to articulate in those terms, because I don't believe in mindsets. It's like you experience what you experience. You're in the body that you're in. I don't know how many different mindsets throughout throughout the day, depending on what's happening. So also, needs are adjustable, but it depends. It depends on what you determine what you need. So there's the financial need of, like, there's a bottom line number. And then there is the experience of, no, it's important for that you don't start to renegotiate things, because that's like, what does that mean about what we first agreed on? So the need may be for not necessarily transparency, but for accountability. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's important to keep it separate. Like, okay, if we're talking about business, what's the bottom line number? There's the number, and then there's the experience about that number. You know, are you do you have experience of being disrespected or being minimized, being dismissed, being like hustled? That those are different things.
Yeah, thumbs up. Also, I just have to say that like this photo is amazing. That top is so fun.
Isn't it fun?
Ah, obsessed.
Yeah, that's yeah, the that was like Jimi Hendrix was like the vision for that shit. Yeah.
Love it.
Does anyone want to workshop a need that they may have?
Mm.
It's gonna take vulnerability.
If no one wants to, I will go, but I also talk a lot, so, but happy to go if no one goes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want me to hit pause on the recording, or do you want me to keep this as part of it?
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm a coach, so I know.
Okay.
Self, like I would love to workshop this with you because I feel like in presence it'll be cool. Yeah, so I have a need to be seen, but I also have a fear of being seen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, same for a lot of people probably. So why is being seen important to you?
I think it's important to me because it just makes, well, I know I feel that it's important to me because it just makes me feel safe when I'm seen. And I have a lot of experiences with not being seen or not being seen in the way that I want to be seen or I'm trying to be seen, but through the lens of other people. And so it's really hard to like manage that because I don't know what people will see, even if it's like what I'm trying to display.
So when you say being seen, what is that? In what context?
Like professionally. I've had a lot of like trauma, workplace trauma around like myself. Like I've gotten fired like 3 or 4 times and it's really been because it's like it's you and I'm like, okay, great. Like, what do you do with that, right? And so um what's what it has done, it's like it's made me feel like it's made me stay really focused on a lane where I have the expertise, I have everything, no one can contest it because it's so fact based in facts. But as I'm starting this new thing around self-love, I'm going to be seen in a much softer way and, I'm going to be seen more. And, my wound was specifically just around like making people feel really uncomfortable. Like my boss said, she was like, "You're gorgeous. People hate working with you. You should basically tone yourself down." And then when I asked her, I was like, "Well, you know, what about them?" They're like, "That's not their job, it's yours." And so basically that broke me into like a million little itty bitty pieces. And it's been like a journey of like 9 years to like really get back to like a place where I'm comfortable being seen. But now that I'm starting this new brand, I'm like, oh, this is going to require me actually being seen in places where that hasn't been so curated or perfected. And how do I like I want to be seen, but what happens if that rubs someone the wrong way or if yeah, it just doesn't, I get a reaction based off of that. It doesn't matter if they don't like it, don't interact with it, but more so if I get like a reaction from that.
Right. Okay, great question. I had a really similar experience. I have a financial background, and then I said, oh, I want to make a sex toy related product. I had no experience in sex toys. I had no experience in that field. I had no experience in product design. And I was very much concerned about if the two paths cross of like people will know, oh my God, in this conservative industry that I work in, that people were going to say something. First, people are a lot graceful and curious, if anything else. But people's reaction is really not the work to do. It's more around building safety around being seen. And so and it's a great question because I specifically have done work around this to be able to do things like this. Because I had a lot of like, well, I'm not this and I'm not that, and what do I know? But it's first acknowledging that that voice came from somewhere. And it may have been, reinforced through your upbringing at some point of someone saying it's unsafe to be seen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
have a really hard upbringing. I think I shared this pretty like openly, but I have adverse childhood experiences. Like it's a test, you can take it, basically how crazy your childhood is or traumatic. I have like an 8 out of 10. So, being seen meant a lot of danger. And so even now as I'm talking, I can feel it in my arms and I can feel it in like
Mhm.
feet and like just it feels really uncomfortable. And so I'm practicing in safe spaces. But I think the somatic aspect of it is really difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it's great that well, first of all, it's great that you have that connection and understanding of the somatic piece of it. It's awful that you had such a difficult upbringing to or path to get you here. If you wanted help getting that broken down, I don't know if you've read the books by Dr. Lindsay Gibson.
Mm-mm.
She's phenomenal. She writes a lot about emotionally immature parents and emotionally immature individuals. And you start to see like really your relationship to needs from like what you didn't get.
Mhm.
Um, and like where it comes from, and that is the like the first step to be able to go, okay, this is theirs and this is mine. Like I'm a whole being, I'm a whole self. So there's like the what she calls the role self, which is how you became in order to feel safe in that environment. And then there's who you really are, and creating the distance by acknowledging one really allows you to create the other. She also has a journal where you go through different questions to be able to understand that. But I don't know if you are in therapy or you working with a professional, but just with that kind of work, be really careful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've been in therapy for like 5 years and like very intense like therapy, somatic therapy done.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like you have to deal with like the somatic or somatic is just body
Hmm.
of everything. So yeah, but that's really good. Yeah, like I think I don't know if anyone else can relate, but yeah, it's like I think that needs are so scary because like yeah, like what like that means you have to acknowledge everything about yourself and like not have a lot of shame around that and so it could be it's really difficult work. But like the fact
Yeah.
that you're bringing awareness, I think is so great because yeah, like a lot of things you said, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's really difficult work, but the thing is that the way I look at it is lifelong work. So there's no place to really get to. It's just it may be something that you will deal with, not as a challenge, but just to that it'll be part of your journey, and it will could even enlighten your experience and enlighten your work. It's
mhm.
just something that's part of you, and that you get to reclaim and reshape.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about the role self versus like the whole self because like I'm really great at the role self. Like I'm so good at the role self. I'm like I go and I like, like
Yeah.
really good at it. And the whole self, I'm just like, oh, ah. I'm being my whole self right now, and it's like it's so interesting. I speak in front of people, I do workshops and things like that, but this is not the energy I show up with there. But when it comes down to it, if you just like, tap on that a little bit, you'll see this, but a lot of people just don't tap. And so I think that yeah, it's really thinking about, okay, well, how can I, because I would love your take on this. Like, how do you meet your own need if the person can't do it, if you can't guarantee the person can meet it? Because that, especially like if you're in front of people, right, you can't, if your need is to be validated or seen, like how do you like mitigate a bit so that your need is met, even if it's not.
Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the need to guarantee or get something, it's just, that's another, like, that's a self-protection strategy. Like, let me make sure I will be okay if I don't get what I need. If you've had a difficult childhood, you're an expert in doing that. If you want to have, a whole, be with your whole self and have a full expression of your life, you have to give that up. That there are going to be people that are not going to meet what you're not going to get your needs met, and you will get them met by someone else or through someone else. And then that process will become easier and easier. And you start off by doing it very low stakes.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have $1 to your name and never started a business, don't go in front of a bunch of people and go, can I have $1 million? They're all going to say no. They're all going to say, fuck you. You're an idiot. And then you're never going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
So you start off small.
I love that.
All right. 58 minutes before I curse. No, I think I cursed before. Okay. Anyway.
Well, Lydia, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share before we go? I have a couple of things I want to share, but I just want to make sure that you've got everything on your end.
Yes. So the next step is that anyone who is interested, I think, Taylor, we talked about this, just getting email addresses to send over the need audit. And just quickly, that I am offering, in light of the times of where people are right now, just something called the Do Something Sprint, which is basically 3 sessions to be able to get through something difficult that you're working with. I know there's a lot coming at us right now with every day seems like something is changing on the economic landscape. And so it's just a great way to just get through the next major step. But yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I would love if we could just all shower Lydia with some confetti, some love in the chat, some like specific takeaways, thank yous. This was so amazing. And I especially love just getting that workshop session live at the very end there. It was so interesting and helpful. So Catalina, thank you so much for being open and sharing in that. And Lydia, for all the great questions. I wrote a couple of down that I'm like, I'm gonna have to rethink those in with my own needs. So thank you so much. I'm going to put a couple of things in the chat just so we have them. If you had an amazing time today, please go ahead and share that in our little feedback form so we can once again shower Lydia with even more love after this session. If you want to stay in touch with Lydia, obviously you can reach out inside of the community. And as she said, she'll send you an email as well, and we'll have an email follow-up. But I'm just going to go ahead and link to her Circle account so that you can say hi there if that's easy for you. We do have another event coming up literally tomorrow that I'm actually hosting on LinkedIn, so maybe I will see some of you there. I'll link to where you can find out about more of our events there. And if you're ever interested in hosting your own D&D event, would love to have you do so. We're already booking up for like middle of the fall, which is so exciting to see the calendar that we have for that, because I'm just getting so excited about the variety of sessions and that we have so many members that are up for it. I mean, that's just like the biggest gift in the world. So here are all those links I just mentioned. And I guess I'll just see you all back in the circle. Thank you, Lydia, again. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, this was so
This is
amazing.
amazing. Thank you so much. This always presents me back to my own experience. So thank you for what your presence has provided me.
Ah, wow. Biggest gift of all.
Mhm.
Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Happy July. I don't know how we're already here, but I will see you all soon. And always feel free to reach out if you have any questions about your membership, how to leverage it better, all the good things. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, crew.